Hello everyone, and today we are continuing our look at rare / free radical design shooters. So we're going to take a look at the original Timesplitters, which was first released by the ex-Rare developers who worked on GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. This is under the newly formed studio Free Radical Design, which again was made up of mostly ex-Rare employees. Okay, Timesplitters released in 2000. It released the same year as Perfect Dark. Now, a lot of the team, they left in 1999 to form Free Radical Design, but they did work on Perfect Dark. Of course, they worked on GoldenEye. This was released exclusively for the next generation at the time, PlayStation 2. It was a launch title. The game featured a story mode in which levels were set in different time periods, hence the name Timesplitters. It featured an arcade mode, which served as the game's multiplayer mode, and a challenge mode, which unlocked after you beat the game's story mode. Oh yeah! Thankfully, this one will not need a slideshow, as Timesplitters was only released on one platform. It was only released for the PlayStation 2, so you're going to need a PS2 or one of the old fat model PS3s in order to play it. You know, the ones that came out at launch with the PS2 emulator on board. So Timesplitters has never seen a digital re-release on PS3 or PS4, so if you want to play this on a modern system, you're looking at emulation via the PC. Luckily, the game does run on the PC SX2 emulator. It runs with very little issues, really, and indeed the footage that you are looking at is PC SX2 running with a resolution bump, a resolution bump, if you will, of 8 times the original, which is around about 5K. I think it's 50,040 by 4820 if you're interested in that. So there you go, about 5K we'll call that. So it should be fairly easy to get running on PCSX2. How far you can push the resolution will depend on your system, of course, but for me I found it fairly easy to get up and running, and I boosted it to the highest resolution that I could, and it looks fine for me, so you shouldn't have any problems getting it running. Oh yeah! Well, if you want to buy Timesplitters, then it's not an especially rare, no pun intended, or valuable game. I mean, in the UK, I was able to find quite a few copies of the game, quite a few in stores, as well as online. It's under £5. I expect to pay around £2 to £3 on average, which is not a huge amount, really. In the US, you're looking at between sort of $5 and $10. The US version does have a really weird cover, though. I'll put that up on the screen. It's kind of weird, having stared at the UK version for so long. I find that a bit weird. So, is it worth collecting then? Well, if you're looking for a Timesplitters game for your collection, then Timesplitters 2 is the one to go for. But if you want the original, honestly, it's so little money, it's a no-brainer, really. It's not a must-buy if you're collecting sort of PS2 games, but you know, check it out because it's not going to break the bank. Oh yeah! I mean, this is a tricky one, if I'm honest. Does it still hold up? Because in a way, it does kind of. The gameplay is very reminiscent of GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. You can tell it came from, you know, it's the studio with the same, at least the same mindset as Rare at the time, and it did lack content. That was the big thing, the big problem with it. The mission structure was fairly simple. There was no increase in objectives as you increase the difficulty level that you saw in GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. So there really was that. That was quite disappointing. You could beat the whole game story mode in under an hour, which was quite disappointing as well. It was fairly simplistic. Every single level, essentially what you did was you picked up the object, Timesplitters would arrive, and then you would get to the exit point, and that was it. That was it. Every level was the same. Now I did like the way that they used the time period to their advantage. Like you had like a 1930s Egyptian type setting where you used like sort of 1930s style guns. It was like a Mauser pistol that you used. You did have sort of a 90s setting, or it's 2000 I think it was, present day at the time of release, where you had like sort of modern guns. And then you had settings in the future where you had sort of ray guns and things like that. You went to places like Planet X in sort of 2020, which isn't far off, and we still don't have ray guns now in 2017. So that's kind of disappointing that we don't have ray guns. But the multiplayer I thought was excellent. This is where the game really shined. The arcade mode, I loved the customization that you could have. You could have 4-player split screen as well. Of course, with the PlayStation 2, you did need a multi-tap because it didn't have 4 controller ports like the Nintendo 64 or the GameCube. Or the Xbox even, that had 4 controller ports. But yeah, that was pretty cool. It did have 2-player split screen co-op. You could play the story in co-op. But I loved the multiplayer's customization. It was awesome. You could customize the weapons. You could use weapons from specific types. You can use them from time periods. Or you could just make your own custom set. You also had a map editor as well. The multiplayer was just basically the single player maps with areas closed off. The multiplayer modes were fairly typical. You had your deathmatch, team deathmatch, capture the flag was there, or capture the bag, or whatever it was called. Don't play escort. Escort was awful, but it had your sort of typical array of multiplayer games, and the maps were pretty interesting as well. I loved the sort of space station type one where it's like an airport type thing, or it's like a space station. It's awesome, and the music is awesome, and the music that you're listening to in the background is the music from that. I also love the announcer. It is the last level of the game, and yes, the last level you do have to pick up space groceries. That is your objective. You literally pick up a bag of space groceries and get to the end. I love the announcement where they tell you, with the people who are shooting each other, please stop. I thought it was kind of funny. But I love the music in that level. I thought it was hilariously good. Hilariously good. It's kind of sci-fi, Doctor Who-ish type thing. If you like that kind of music, then you'll love that level. It's pretty awesome as well. The challenge mode is okay, I thought, but I mean, that's the biggest problem is, if this was a modern game, you would say it was an early access game. That's the biggest thing about it, is what was there was good. It has potential, you can see that, and we'll discuss Timesplitters' potential in its 2 sequels when we do those 2 videos, but it was a good idea. I think for a launch title, you could argue it was pretty barren, really. I like the fact that you could play as a male or a female character. You get all these social justice warrior types nowadays that criticize games for sort of, you only play as a male character, your games are sexist or whatever. To be honest, I never paid much attention to that, and it's like, well, and the thing about these people is they focus on games from the Xbox 360, PS3 era. Game like Timesplitters, I mean, you even had a female version of the zombies. I mean, like, you had a male zombie and a female zombie. You had a male robot and a female robot. That's gender equality right there. Although what makes a robot male and what makes a robot female, there you go. You can't assume gender of humans nowadays. Jesus Christ, that's a minefield to assume the gender of a robot. Jesus, I didn't do it, don't look at me. I'm just here talking about Timesplitters. But I loved the sort of missions. Some of the missions were quite cool as well in Timesplitters, but it just, I wanted more. Like, you want more, and that's always a good thing, to be left wanting more from a game. So yeah, I think it does still hold up well. It is worth playing, but I would say it is definitely the weakest of the Timesplitters franchises, but it was where it got its start, and it was a launch game. And bear in mind, this game was probably developed in about a year, I would say, so I would suggest that it is definitely worth checking out. It's not a must own, but I'd say check it out. We haven't really done a conclusion, we're just going to roll this up because there's not really a huge amount to say about Timesplitters 1, hence why we only took a week to turn this around. So next time we're going to take a look at its sequel, which we do have quite a lot to say about, It was a massive improvement, Timesplitters 2, and we'll find out, you know, how they capitalized on the potential of Timesplitters. So anyway, that is all for this video, so thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.
Those passengers shooting at each other in reception, please stop.